All right, welcome to another IAEI News Live. My name's Thomas Dimitrovich, and today we're going to talk about NFPA 70B, which, as we speak, the second revision meetings are going on right now. We're going to talk about 70B and electrical maintenance, and it all starts now. All right. Okay. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. This is a recorded session. And the reason it is a recorded session is because I am sitting on NFPA 70B as we speak, and we're going through the second revision. So it's the second draft meetings. We're creating second revisions as we speak. So I am going to be, I just want to give you, because this is 70B week, I thought it was just a great idea just to talk about 70B. But before I go there, last week, I was at Supercode over in Massachusetts, and I've had a couple people ask me, Tom, how did you know about Supercode? How do I get to attend these events? I was close, and I didn't know what was going on. And my answer to that is, get your IAEI membership. I'm telling you, you need to get your IAEI membership, and then you can get out to the IAEI's website and take a look at the events that could be occurring near you. I'm going to show you how, you teach a person to fish, and they feed themselves for life. So I am going to teach you a couple things before we get into 70B. So if you take a look if you just go to IAEI.org, you'll come to the main page, which will have this beautiful graphic scrolling, thanks to Laura Hildreth and everybody else down there at the international office in Texas who make stuff like this happen. You have an interface, your portal, into the activities of the IAEI. Now, one of the places I want you to look is right here on this tab. It's called Education. You'll see CEU requirements by state. You'll see on-demand training, certifications, CEU tracker, section meetings, which we're going to have sessions coming up to tell you exactly what the agendas are for each of the section meetings, so you know. And registration's already opened. I know at least the registration is open for the IAEI Western section. I know that because I'm the education chair, and I work closely with Tom Moore and Mike Forrester and others, the entire executive board of the Western section, and we pulled that together. And we have, if you want a vendor booth, we've got the links for you. If you want to attend, we've got the links for you. You want to bring your spouse or your significant other or whomever that you want, your companion, and you can put them into the companion program. We've got it all signed up. You want to sponsor a coffee break? We have a link for you. So if you don't know where that's at, let me know. Actually, I'm going to show you. After I show you, the local events calendar is the next item on the next contestant on the link is right. So local events, you go to local events, and this will show you all of the local events moving forward. Now let's just take a look. Tuesday, April 26th, which is today. William Penn Division is going to be talking about copper-clad aluminum conductors. The location is Morgantown, Pennsylvania. West Virginia Chapter Spring 2022 Education Training in Fairmont, West by God, Virginia. It's an all-day event. They have a great lunch. You will not believe. We feed you. I'm a part of the West Virginia chapter, and unfortunately, I can't make it to this event because why? I'm sitting on NFPA 70B this week. So I'm just curious. Let's take a look at what this says. We have Jack Jimmins. We have two. We have Tuesday at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Fairmont, West Virginia. And if it says click here for the flyer and registration form, and look at this. Tuesday, course description. The course will offer the students a basic and workable understanding of two unique environments encountered by electricians and electrical inspectors: swimming pools and photovoltaic systems. The goal and expectation of the program is to provide the student with the knowledge necessary to understand the installation and inspection of these. I'm telling you, if you're not a member of the IAEI, if you're not engaged with your local chapters, you're missing out. You are absolutely missing out. You need to get engaged. You need to get your membership. And look, let's see who we will have. Look at these elite speakers. Vincent Delacroix from Siemens will be presenting, and he's going, I mean, this guy is in Florida, swims every day. Okay. I mean, his skin is all, he's got those fingertips that, I mean, they're all squishy because, you know, he's in the pool all the time, and he's going to be talking about swimming pools. Electrical inspections of existing dwellings. He sits on NFPA 73, NFPA 1078, and NFPA 99 for healthcare. And we have the David Humphrey. David is chair of Codemaking Panel 2. I know him well. David, I mean, if you have not experienced a photovoltaic session with David Humphrey, you're not living. All right. You got to get down to these meetings because you meet people like this. And you know, I'll tell you what, when you have a Vince Delacroix up front, when you have David Humphrey up front, you get their contact information, you make that connection, you shake their hand, and you have that connection for life. That is what the IAEI is all about. That is why I am sitting where I'm at. Now, Southern Nevada chapter, NEC surge protection requirements. Let's just take a look at that one. Title of course, NEC surge protection requirements. Review of the changes in surge protection requirements as stipulated in several recent code cycles, paying particular attention to the 2020 code requirements, and will review surge protection devices used to meet those requirements. Griselda Hernandez, regional product specialist from Square D, is going to be presented. And look at this, Master's of Science degree in Material Science from Colorado School of Mines. I'm telling you, the quality of presenters at IAEI events is like no other in the industry. You're not going to find an umbrella like this. And when I say umbrella, I'm telling you, and the reason I say umbrella is that the IAEI is not tied to another type of organization that has how would you say, has a special interest, right? We're not tied to NFPA. We're not tied to ICC. We're not tied to IEEE. We're not tied to a manufacturer. You're not tied to in any one specialized group. All of these people meet together under one umbrella, and we all talk about electrical safety and code requirements. So it's a great, now I go here, you'll see where it says upcoming, but look at here, it says past. If you click on past, and you'll see right here, Friday, April 22nd, Cape and Islands chapter of the IAEI 2022 Cape and Islands Supercode. Location is Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I'll tell you what, it was an absolute phenomenal event. So you have the location, you have the date, and you have the contact information on who to contact. So you want to get connected with these events in your area? Join the IAEI. Go out to the IAEI website. And if you need further, if you want to know membership, look here, you go to membership and you can go to Member Center, account and settings. So you can go to the Member Center, download the logos. These are all of my, that's all, because I'm already a member. Look, I have a profile. You have a login side. You can download information. Once you are a member, you have a lot of other resources available to you. You can connect with people on their website once you log in. See, I'm logged in. You can see my profile is right up here. If you wanted to connect with me, you can connect with me right through the IAEI's website. There's a ability to send text and email and whatnot to everybody, other IAEI members. So there's a lot of really good really good resources for you right up here. Look where it says join. You click on join, and there's the professional memberships, student memberships, corporate and senior memberships. So, and then you can see and view what the benefits and what the options are for you. So get out there to the IAEI's website. You need to know what events are going on local near you, and you need to get to those meetings. You won't believe the value and the quality of those who are there to help you on your journey to increase electrical safety, because that's what IAEI is all about. All right. I'm off my it was like 5 or 6 minutes of pure energy around joining IAEI and understanding the resources that are available to you. I want to get into NFPA 70B. And I say second draft because that is what is going on right now as this is going on. So we usually take lunch around 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and it is 12 o'clock, and we get a half an hour. So we start like at 9:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. We go till 6, and we get about a half an hour. We get some little breaks in there, but let's talk about 70B. All right, so first, what is 70B all about? 70B is about maintenance. Now, what I did was I just took, various people say, look, the maintenance has nothing, it should not be in the National Electrical Code. And I can understand where they're coming from, but you may or may not realize this, but that word maintenance is used 218 times in the National Electrical Code. And I'm going to go through some of those because here's what it does. Here's, in my opinion, by walking through and looking at some of the requirements that mention maintenance, you should, I can tell you what I get out of it. I get an appreciation for the relationship that the National Electrical Code has with NFPA 70B. Remember, the NEC is NFPA 70. So 70, 70B, and 70E all relate to each other. I call it the trilogy. And the reason I call it the trilogy is because we need our power distribution systems to be installed correctly. That's the National Electrical Code, NFPA 70. We need them to be maintained correctly. That is 70B. In order for us to be able to implement safe work practices, which is 70E. Now, I threw NFPA 99 in here for a specific reason. NFPA 99 has made some drastic changes in the area of maintenance, requirements around maintenance in NFPA 99, which is more of a performance standard, but it is a code now. So, and maintenance is mentioned 159 times in the latest version of NFPA 99. So, I want to talk a little bit about some of the areas, and I'm going to call up, you know what I'm going to call up? NFPA what? Link. NFPA Link. And I know you may or may not have heard about NFPA Link, but I when it first came out, I was not on the NFPA Link. I wasn't swimming in the NFPA Link pool. I wasn't playing in the NFPA Link sandbox. But recently, I've earned NFPA Link has earned a place in my library of tools. And I'll tell you why. When I need to understand a term or a concept, and I want to know what all standards. Cybersecurity, good example. Cybersecurity. I can come to NFPA link where I have all of my books, right? So I have all of my books that I commonly reference. So I can post those. I can pin them. And I can access them very quickly. And I just recently did the offline so that I can bring these up on my iPad, my new iPad, or my phone, and I can review those offline. So NFPA link gives me the ability to search all of these documents at one time. So, for example, let's take a look. Cybersecurity, big topic these days, right? I click up here on the search and I type in cybersecurity and I hit enter. And look at this. NFPA 72 has a chapter 11, cybersecurity. Let me scroll down and look how many pages, 4 pages. NFPA 72, these are all NFPA 72's references. NFPA 1225. Section F.2.1. If I click on it, I can go to there, but I'm not going to do that because I'm just proving a point here. I can search and I can find it in NFPA 1225, Standard for Emergency Services Communications, Annex F. 1225, 72, 59A, NFPA 59A, which is the production, storage, and handling of liquefied natural gas. That's LNG. Chapter 11. I love the fact that they picked Chapter 11. If you don't follow cybersecurity, you might end up in Chapter 11. Anyway, 59, I doubt they. NFPA 715 references. And 715 is the standard for installation of fuel gases, detection, and warning equipment. There's 1225 again, and let's go to the last page. NFPA 731, standard for the installation of premises security systems. 1221 is the standard for installation, maintenance, and use of emergency services communication systems. There's 1225 again, and 72. And 59, 1082, standard for facility fire and life safety. Director professional qualifications, and 731 again. So I can search, and here's what we're going to do. Since what's our topic today? Our topic is on cybersecurity, is on maintenance. I'm just all full energy. All right, so I go to maintenance, MAINTENANCE, maintenance. Look at this, NFPA 58, NFPA 59. 204, standard for heating and venting, for smoke and heat venting. Geez, 655, 1925, 1937. So all of these, look how many, 10 pages. Let's go to page 10. There's page 14, page 18, page 22, 26, 30, 34. Look how many pages. There are a lot of reference documents. There are maintenance is mentioned 6,342 times in all of these NFPA standards and documents and codes. Do you think it matters? Absolutely. So NFPA 70B is going through a historic move right now. And 70B is moving from what do they call it? I believe it is called a recommended practice. I believe it is a recommended practice. So right now it's going from a recommended practice. I'm gonna have to double check that, but I believe I'm 100% accurate there. Recommended practice to a standard. That is significant. That means you went from you could and you should, and hey, you know what? It might be a good idea, to a you shall document. So it's very significant. Now let's take a look at some of the reference here. 706. So I'm going to go into NFPA link, and I'm going to go to chapter 7 for 706, and 706, 700, look at this, 700.3, 701.3, 708.6. So let's take a look. I'm going to take a look at 700.3 first, because that's the one I think a lot of people have heartburn over. I'm just going out on a limb. I don't know. 700.3, test and maintenance. Tests and maintenance. A is you have to conduct, talks about conduct or witness test. B is testing periodically. C is maintenance. Emergency system equipment shall be maintained in accordance with manufacturer's instructions and industry standards. Now, there are people that will say that shouldn't be in the National Electrical Code. It's not an installation requirement. It belongs in 70B. You're stepping on the toes of 70B. And you know, that might be true, but does it hurt? And here's why I think I call them hooks. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And I'm not going to say I am on one side of this versus another. But it's in the code. And the reason I call it a hook is that the National Electrical Code is adopted into law. And because it's adopted into law and that language is in there, emergency system equipment shall be maintained in accordance with manufacturer's instructions and industry standards. We could reference NFPA 70B as an informational. Well, let's take a look. And NFPA 70B is not referenced in here specifically, but it's there, and that gets you a hook to point you to 70B. So a jurisdiction would have to say, how am I going to enforce this? And 70B is your document. And we can argue who enforces maintenance, right? Because maintenance is very similar to safe work practices. It's the responsibility of the owner. And we'll see in 70B that we point that out in the general requirements, and I believe in an article in chapter 1 as well. But we say that your electrical maintenance program, your EMP, is the responsibility of the owner. So this is a tough one to say in 700.3, and let's take a look at what's 701.3. 701.3 says what? I'm going to tell you. 701.3 is titled Test and Maintenance. And look, legally required standby system equipment shall be maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. And I know people, they have a love-hate relationship with this section. There's people that say it doesn't belong in the NEC. There's people that say that it has to be in the NEC. I say it's in the NEC. But any case, 522.7, let's take a look. What's 522.27? Let's take a look at chapter 5. These are direct. I would say these, in 700, 701, and 708, they're very similar, if not the exact same language, is a direct requirement for maintenance, right? So 522.7, let's take a look at what this one is. Conditions of maintenance and supervision shall ensure that only qualified persons service the permanent amusement attraction. So 522.7 is titled maintenance, and it says the conditions of maintenance and supervision shall ensure that only qualified persons service the permanent amusement attraction. Think about that. Your EMP, your electrical maintenance program, has to speak to who's going to be servicing the equipment. And it has to be in place for you to be able to meet 522.7. So how would you as an inspector, I'd love to see your comments down below. How do you enforce this? I would love to understand how electrical inspectors currently enforce something like 522. Now remember, Article 522 is the control systems for permanent amusement attractions. So 522.7, if you're out there and you enforce or you inspect these, how do you enforce 522.7? Do you look for an electrical maintenance program? Do you ask the facility, let me see your EMP as your evidence to say, look, you based upon your electrical maintenance program, you have the provisions in place to ensure that only qualified persons are going to service the permanent amusement attraction. How do you handle that? I would love to understand that. That's what the chat is all about. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, chat it up, comment about it. I want to hear and see your feedback on this. And I know you're probably, there's going to be some passionate people out there commenting on this, and bring it on. We need those comments. I want to hear from you. The industry wants to hear from you. 646.22. Now this one is a different way, which I think, in my opinion, there are many locations within many documents that speak to this. I don't know what to say, not method, but this approach, or this approach isn't the right word. This is a requirement that doesn't require maintenance, but it puts provisions in place. This is on modular data systems. It puts provisions in place that facilitate maintenance. So it's a different approach. A working space is for the electrical worker. It's for the person who is going to be conducting maintenance of the equipment. So we have many locations within the National Electrical Code where we talk about working space. So let's take a look at 646.22. 646.22, workspace for routine service and maintenance. It says workspace shall be provided to facilitate routine servicing and maintenance. And it says that this service and maintenance has to be able to be performed without exposing the worker to a risk of electric shock or personal injury. So what are we doing there? 646.22. They're providing the workspace. They're saying, look, you need to make sure that your electrical worker has working space. Why would they need working space? Because you don't want them to get electrocuted, working tight spaces, working in awkward locations. You need to give them room for egress, for, you just don't want to be in a cramped spot next to energized parts and pieces. And how about 514.13? Let's take a look at this. Now, I was going to organize these in the order of the articles, but I said, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to do that. 514.13 is motor fuel dispensing. 514.13, provisions for maintenance and service of dispensing equipment. And it's very similar. It says each dispensing device shall be provided with a means to remove all external voltage sources, including power, communications, blah, 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 during periods of maintenance and service of the dispensing equipment. So here we have a provision that says, look, you're going to be working on this equipment. You're going to be performing maintenance. And when you do that, you need to be able to remove all of the external voltage sources, which includes the power, the communications and data, and even the video circuits. And including feedback during periods of maintenance. So you have to remove all of this, including the data. You might say, well, Tom, you might say, well, it's communications. You can't get electrocuted on communications. Why would you worry about that? This is motor fuel dispensing. Do you think that a little spark could be a bad thing? Maybe. Right? So we have provisions for providing space. We have provisions for providing an electrically safe work condition and removing all the power so that when you're performing maintenance, you and servicing of this equipment, you're not exposing the electrical worker to additional hazards. Now let's take a look at 430.14a, because it says ventilation and maintenance. I'm curious about this one. 430.14. 430 is motors. We know that, right? It's motors, motor controls, equipment, all that good stuff. 430.14, 430.14a. Location of motors is 430.14. Motors shall be located so that adequate ventilation is provided and so that maintenance, such as lubrication of bearings and replacing of bushings, can be readily accomplished. So here we have 70B is going to tell you how often you're going to need to lubricate those bearings and possibly replace brushes, right? And 430.14 is going to make it so that you can easily get that done. You see how the relationship, in my opinion, this is the ideal relationship. Working space is the ideal relationship. In the National Electrical Code, I mean, I think that those who say thou shalt perform maintenance is not appropriate for the NEC may have a point. They may have a point. I may not like that point. I mean, I personally, I like that fact that it's in there, but I can understand that it may not have a place there. And I don't know. So these, though, these references, just like this provision and this ventilation and maintenance section saying that you need to be prepared and provide adequate ventilation and be located in such a way that maintenance for lubricating bearings and replacing brushes is rarely accomplished. That's a very good fit and a very necessary for the National Electrical Code to make sure that when we install these products, that we're thinking about the future, right? Now, let's take a look at 680. 680 is swimming pools, right? And we said already, Vince Delacroix is going to be doing swimming pools in West Virginia tomorrow, 2 days, Tuesday and Thursday. And if you are an IAEI member, you would know this because you're going up to the events page all the time, trying to figure out where you're going to get education. And you are coming to West by God, Virginia. Take a look at Chapter 6. 680, swimming pools. 680.51, servicing. 680.51. Luminaires, submersible pumps, and other submersible equipment. Wow. We're in F. So what does this have? So 680.51, luminaires, submersible pumps, and other submersible equipment. A is ground fault circuit interrupters. B is operating voltage. C is luminaire lenses. D is overheating protection. E is wiring. And F, servicing. All equipment shall be removable from the water for relamping or normal maintenance. Tell me that's not poetry in motion. Luminaires are required to not be permanently embedded into the fountain structure, such that the water level must be reduced or the fountain drained for relamping, maintenance for inspection. Oh, this is in part 5, fountains. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. So this is part 5, fountains. I forgot we did that. Anyway, it threw me for a loop, and I'm like, fountains? I thought this was swimming pools. But nope, it's swimming pools and fountains. Completely forgot about that addition, that revision. So all equipment shall be removable from the water for relamping. So there are provisions in the National Electrical Code that think about the future. And that's important. That helps set you up for success for when you're implementing and executing your electrical maintenance program per NFPA 70B. We can't forget about 110.26. We can't forget about 708.22a, capacity and rating. I believe 708.22a. We got to take a look at that one too. And what I'm going to do is 708.22a, capacity and rating. I think that this is talking about inlets for maintenance, but I'm just not sure about that, but we're going to double check it. 708.22a, capacity and rating. A critical operation power system has to have the rating for capacity and rating for all loads to be operated simultaneously for an unlimited number of hours, except for required maintenance of the power source. A portable, temporary, or redundant alternate power source shall be available for use whenever the critical operation power systems, when it's out of service for repair, for maintenance. So this is a different approach, right? So this is a little bit of a twist of a provision in the National Electrical Code that recognizes you will be performing maintenance. And oh, by the way, you need to design the system so that when you're performing that maintenance, you have addressed the reliability that's important for safety of those in the in the 708 critical operation power system, right? Which is there for national security, which 708 was introduced after 911, recognizing there are facilities across our country that are important to the national security of our country. So that's what that one's all about. So, and here's, I'm just going to give these sections, but you and I know you're going to go out and you're going to get yourself an NFPA link subscription. And you're going to use that document in ways that I used, or that resource, in ways that I use this to help you understand the bigger picture for things like this topic. So these are just some of the areas, and you can always pause this video and take a look at each of these sections. 110.16a, let's take a look at 110.16a. 110.16 is arc flash labeling, I believe. 110.16 is titled Arc Flash Hazard Warnings. What does maintenance have to do with this? All right, so it says electrical equipment such as switchboard, switchgear, panel boards, industrial control panels, meter sockets, enclosures, and motor control centers that are other than a dwelling unit is likely to require examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while energized. Oh, beautiful. You got to provide markings. And what does this do? Raises the awareness for the person who's going to be doing maintenance while energized. That would be justified energized work. But there's a hazard. Do you see how this goes together? Do you see why I'm calling this the trilogy? 70, 70B, and 70E work together to help create safe power distribution systems. All right. Just a whole nother list. An entire nother list. So that's just to give you that reference of the relationship. So now, 70B. Now, and if you've watched this program in the past, when we talk about the National Electrical Code and the NEC Style Manual, remember the National Electrical Code is going through changes, and the NEC Style Manual is forcing them to put all the definitions into one location. The NEC Style Manual is forcing us to change all of the informational notes to reorganize them in how the words are reading. The Style Manual is telling us to remove unenforceable and vague terms like probably and we were just recently dealing with some of these Oh man. Anyway, there are terms that are just vague and unenforceable. Where do we get that information? So now the National Electrical Code and 70E, Edward, for safe work practices. Those two documents follow the NEC style manual. 70B does not follow the NEC style manual. It follows two other documents. One, regulations governing the development of NFPA standards. This guy also the Manual of Style for NFPA Technical Committee documents. Now, why is that important? If you look at the National Electrical Code, for example, we've got what? We've got chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up through 8, right? And we have articles. And then within articles, we have sections. We have within sections, first level subdivisions, second level subdivisions. And there's a structure to the National Electrical Code. It doesn't happen in 70B. There is no Article 100 for definitions. Do you know where all the definitions are in 70B? Chapter 3. So there's no chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and then within there's articles. There's no articles. There's chapter 1. And there's sections. There's chapter 2 in sections, chapter 3 in sections. So, and it's 2.1, 2.1.1.1, 2.2, 2.2.1, 2.2.2.2, and it's just on and on and on. There's no Article 100, Article 110, and then section 110.10 or 110.12, and then first level subdivision 110.12A. Or second level subdivision 110.12A1, right? This document is 1.2, 1.3, 1.3.1, 1.3.2. And the definitions are in chapter 3. So the manual of style, in fact, let me do that. And I'll show you how to find these documents, okay? So if you go to www.nfpa.org, say, I don't know, 70B/70B, and you go to Technical Committee, and you go to Committee Guidelines and Classification, Classification of committee members, this is your classifications, but if you come up to the regulations and policies, you'll see the regulations governing the development of NFPA standards. Just right mouse click on that and open in a new window, and look at that. There she blows, Cupcake Island. All right, and look what we have. We have general provisions, scope of regulations, standards council guidelines. You have established operation of a standards council, formal interpretations, tentative interim amendments. So these are all of those different sections that help you govern all of that good stuff. So scroll down and you'll find Manual of Style for Technical Committee Documents. You click on that and look at this same document. Now this is where you're going to find, look at this, it says numbering system 1.8 on page 6. So let's go to page 6, 1.8, numbering system. Okay, 1.8, number, mandatory text shall be divided into chapters that are numbered consecutively with Arabic numbers. Subdivisions, 1.8.1, all subdivisions shall contain at least 2 subdivisions, 3.1, 3.2, minimum. Sections, mandatory text within chapters shall be further divided into sections that are numbered consecutively. Sections shall be numbered consecutively by adding a period and an Arabic number after the chapter number. So 4.1, 4.2, those are sections. And all sections have to be titled. Sections containing multiple requirements shall be subdivided into subsections, which can be further subdivided into paragraphs of text. They have to be numbered consecutively. And again, it's 4.2.1, 4.2.2, etc. The use of titles for subsections shall be permitted to be inconsistent when the subsection has no requirement if it's of its own. They talk about paragraphs and subparagraphs. So you'll see this is different than the National Electrical Code. So you have to understand that as you go down through this document. So you have that talks about annex materials, but also each chapter, starting with chapter 4, shall be permitted to have the following administrative sections: chapter scope, application, purpose, and definitions. Let's find where all definitions, look at this, all definitions contained within the document shall appear in chapter 3, which is right here. Whoops, sorry about that. All definitions contained within the document shall appear in chapter 3, and only terms used within the document. So, and we've got public comments to remove a bunch of definitions that are not used in 70B. So you see, there is a difference, and it's important, and I think, in my opinion, this document and the regulations governing standards, development of standards, those are two important documents that you need to read. Doesn't matter if you're not on the committee or if you're on the committee, doesn't matter. You need to read both of those and understand the architecture and layout of this document, right? It's no different than reading Article 90 of the National Electrical Code and the NEC style manual. Okay. This document here also, Control F, terms. Let me just, I'm going to search for vague. The terms contained in Table 2223 shall be reviewed in the context, and if the resulting requirements is unenforceable or vague, they shall not be used within the body of the standards. And these are words like acceptable, frequent or frequently, firmly, generally, good, likely to. Remember, likely. You can't use the word may or maybe or many, might, mostly, nearly. All of these are relative terms, and you can't use those. So you'll find that NFPA 70B follows this, and these are very similar to what you have on the National Electrical Code. But again, this is the manual of style for all the technical committees. So an important document for you to read. Okay, development implementation. So 70B talks about the development and implementation of the electrical maintenance program. It is the EMP. There's two basic goals. They want the practical safeguarding of persons, property, and processes from the risk associated with failure, breakdown, or malfunction. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking like the National Electrical Code is only about life safety. That's not true. Practical safeguard of persons, property, and processes. So if you have I'm going to go out on a limb. On the National Electrical Code, we put some requirements in about surge. It's not just about surge protecting life safety products. If surge saves hundreds of millions of dollars of loss of TVs and radios and telephones and all this other good stuff, that's within the scope of the NEC. If you can put in maintenance procedures and requirements that avoids processes going down or property damage, doesn't just pertain to safeguarding persons. So keep that in mind. Another goal, establish a condition of maintenance of electrical equipment and systems to address safety and reliability. Those are some of the goals. Those are the goals of NFPA 70B. It focuses on systems and equipment, electrical systems, electronic systems and equipment, and communications systems and equipment. It doesn't pertain to dwelling units, or does it? And the reason I say or does it is because the committee this week will be reviewing a public comment that wants it to pertain to dwelling units. That's going to be a challenge. It's going to be an interesting discussion, but stay tuned because I'll let you know how that discussion progresses. This document does not supersede or duplicate manufacturer's instructions, and we say this in various locations. The manufacturer's instructions are very important. Why do I say that? Because I might make a Van Ducky, and I got the best doggone Van Ducky out there, and you have to oil it. But the manufacturer's instructions may tell you you have to use special Van Ducky oil. Because if you don't use special Van Ducky oil and you use Joe Schmuckatelli's oil, you could damage this equipment. So it's really critical to follow manufacturer's instructions. And 70B says it doesn't supersede or duplicate those instructions. But it does tell you when you don't have those instructions available that you're supposed to follow industry practices and procedures. Here's how now I know the organization of this is going to change, but, and I'll show you the problem is right here, 9, and the code panel is probably going to flip 9 and 10. So these chapters, the first administration, reference publications, definitions, chapter 3, personnel safety, general system studies, fundamental tests, field testing and maintenance, and then maintenance intervals. Those first 9 chapters are general requirements. Chapter 10, which would be which again, I believe we're going to flip these, which would be the existing chapter 9 would be the new chapter 10. That's where you start focusing on equipment and specific requirements for equipment. So this is the layout. Administrative rules and procedures and all this other good stuff. So let's take a look at that. Up. I'm going to close this. Close that. Close this. NFPA 70B, I believe, and I guess I did not do that. org/70bob. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go to next edition and I'm going to go to the view public comments because I want to take a look. And administration is where you're going to find the scope, the purpose, the application, a little bit of what I just had previously, equivalency and units of measure. Now that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is your reference publications. These are you'll have your general, you'll have your, now here's the other thing that a lot of this was moved to the annex material. Because remember, I can't have a requirement that includes a reference publication. I can put it in annex material. That's the other thing is there are no informational notes in this document. What we know in the NEC as an informational note is annex material. So keep that in mind. You're not going to find informational notes. What you remember and know and love as an informational note is annex material. So all of these were moved to annex material, and we're having the debate, or we're going to have the debate on the date. Do we put a date next to these documents? The National Electrical Code says that we're not going to use the date, but the regulations governing this document specifically mandate that the date or version be included in the reference. So that's the direction that the 70B committee is going. Where we end up, nobody knows until it's over. So keep that in mind that we're in process, and I'm giving you a little bit ahead of the game here. All right. All right, so chapter 3 are all of your definitions. And I know you may like that and you may hate that, but that's the way it is. Personnel safety, chapter 4. So we had a big discussion. We're going to have a big discussion. We had a big discussion on our task group work and all this other good stuff. Chapter 4 really steps on the toes of 70E, right? So chapter 4 is going to get some love. And be reduced significantly in content because we do not want to step on the toes and repeat information that's found in 70E. So what you'll see in Chapter 4, Personnel Safety, is a lot of that material will go away and we'll have a reference pointing you to 70E, which is a good move in my opinion, because here's the problem. When you start repeating information, and what you leave out that is in 70E, people think that, well, I don't have to follow what's in 70E. Got to be careful about not being complete when you start duplicating what's found in another document or another section. You're safer to just point over there and let 70E be your reference for safe work practices for personnel safety. And then you got your general requirements. Now, the general requirements, very important. See, I already talked about this. We already said chapters 11 through, and actually it's going to be 10 through 38 are specific equipment, because it's chapter 9 and 11 through 38. So we're going to be moving 9 to 10. So it'll be 10 through 38. 31, 32, 33, and 34. I would say those focus on systems. So let's take a look at what those are. 31 says wind power, electric systems, and associated equipment. 32 is battery energy storage systems. 33 is electric vehicle power transfer systems and associated equipment. And then 34 are your public pools, fountains, and similar installations. So I would lump also chapter 9, which is hazardous location electrical equipment. No, that's not a system. It's HAZLOC, but it says electrical equipment. So, but those others, they have that word system in there. And time will tell on what impact that term system has on the requirements for maintenance of the system. Give you something to chew on and think about. Chapter 31. Oh, there's the titles. I didn't have to call it up here. I got the titles right there. So there's your titles. You can always pause this and write those down or wait for the next update. Dates are being included in the standard on the reference materials. It was and will be a point of contention because the NEC has adopted to not include the dates. 70B is following the rules. They're saying, look, in 3.3.7.4, we're required to put the date or the version in there. So we're following suit with that. And our feedback is, if you don't want that date in there, go change the rules. Don't break the rules. Go change the rules. All right. So here's another big. Okay. So I believe it's in the general requirements. I think it is enhanced test. No, it's actually chapter 8. So there's chapter 8 is titled Field Testing and Test Methods. So this is a point in our task group work. This has been discussed over and over and over and over and over. Online standard test and enhanced test. Enhanced test does not mean optional. An enhanced test, if you look at the definition in chapter 3, because it's not chapter 1, I almost said 1, under tests, we define what an enhanced test is and a standard test. An enhanced test is a test that's performed when you think or you have identified that it may be defective or it's been subjected to conditions that could adversely affect its condition or the operating condition. So a good example would be if you run a standard test and you get results and you go, you know what? This is really pushing the envelope. And I know that it's seen some events. There's some short circuit or whatever the event was. We had some outages. We had some things going on. And this test result leads me to think that there might be something else wrong here. That's when you're going to perform the enhanced tests. They're not quote unquote optional tests. There's a specific definition and it's a criteria. When you think something is defective, when you think something was subjected to abnormal conditions, you're into the enhanced tests. And those are in a table in each of the chapters for each of the equipment that'll tell you when to do. Now, online and offline. Online is you're energized. Offline, it's not energized. Some tests cannot be performed while they're energized. It has to be, you're going to establish an electrically safe work condition, and then you're going to perform your offline tests. So that's an important distinction. Then there's equipment conditions in Chapter 10, which is probably going to be moved to a different chapter. Chapter 10 is your maintenance intervals. And we talk about conditions. Now, 10.2.1.1, equipment condition 1. It's when the equipment is in like new condition. When the enclosure is nice and clean, it's dry, it's tight, it's listed and suitable for the environmental conditions within which it's placed. It's not subjected to harsh chemicals, contaminants, or extreme operating conditions. There's no, like if you have a monitoring system that's monitoring that equipment, there are no unaddressed alarms as part of the continuous monitoring system. And there are no active recommendations from the predictive techniques or the predictive maintenance technologies. There's nothing saying, hey, you're going to have to do something on here. Equipment condition 2. This is, now you're seeing some age on the equipment. The enclosure doesn't look so good. There might be some evidence of arcing or heating. There could be that unused openings, right? So when you take a breaker out, if you're not covering those holes up, and you see equipment that has these holes or punch outs that haven't been plugged, that's a good indication that something could get inside of there. It could be moisture, it could be dirt, dust. This is an equipment operating condition 2. And then condition 3, if there's evidence of active arcing and overheating. There's notifications from monitoring systems if they're talking. There's urgent things that need to be addressed that have not been addressed. And there's severe corrosion and deterioration of the equipment, whether it be the enclosures or whatever it is that you're looking at. Now, how does this impact? Why is it in Chapter 10 for maintenance intervals? Because the worse condition the equipment is, the more frequently you're going to have to do tasks associated with that equipment. So the way 70B is laid out is that you pick your product. Let's say it's a circuit breaker. For example, it's a circuit breaker. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look at circuit breakers or Chapter 15 for now. Okay. So this will tell you that your visual inspections, and you have a test type, 1 or 2. 1 is an online standard test. 1A is an online enhanced test. And you know what those are. If you don't remember, rewind. 2 is an offline standard test, and 2A is an offline enhanced test. So for visual inspections, so all of these sections for all the chapters, they have visual inspection, cleaning, lubrication, mechanical servicing, electrical testing. And then there's any special. So that's sort of the categories, right? So for visual inspections, they tell you, okay, verify the ratings are proper for the system. Inspect the wiring, bus, cable, and connections. Inspect visual current carrying parts. Looking for overheating. Look for cracks. These are visual inspections. So remember, visual inspections, this is telling you what you need to do. And when if you either do it online or offline, it's either a standard mandatory test or it's enhanced. And remember, enhanced is you're looking at it, you think there's something wrong, then you're going to do the enhanced test. So each chapter has the requirements. And then chapter 10 tells you how frequently you need to do that based upon the conditions, 1, 2, or 3. If it's brand new, you got a long time till you do another visual test. If it's in the middle, well, you're going to bring that time in. You're going to have to go look at it a little bit more frequently. And if that piece of equipment is experiencing arcing and it's deteriorated, you're going to be probably checking that thing every day because you're probably going to see an impending failure here shortly, and you need to get it addressed. Visual inspections, cleaning. You got to make sure they give you some ideas of cleaning and then their frequency for how often you need to clean. And I'll tell you, so for example, breakers. Let's just take a look at some of the frequencies that are in the tables right now on circuit breakers. Molded case, insulated case circuit breakers, mechanical operating and cycling. If it's condition 1, which is like brand new, every 5 years. Condition 2, which is that, remember, there's some 36 months, 3 years. Condition 3, annually. You're going to be doing a mechanical operation and cycling. A visual inspection, annually. Condition 1 and 2, every 6 months for condition 3. Let's take a look at another piece of equipment. And now these are going to change. So, but these numbers are probably relatively close to what they're supposed to, what they'll end up. Let's just take a look at, I don't know, motor control equipment, enclosure visual inspections annually or every 6 months. So condition 1 and 2 is annually. Condition 3 is every 6 months. Rotating equipment, vibration analysis. I'm looking for wiring devices, general use snap switches, monthly or when used. Okay. Low voltage busway, low voltage busway. Visual inspection annually for conditions 1 and 2, or every 6 months for condition 3. Now, these numbers are being looked at by the committee as we speak. But you see how it's laid out. You go to the equipment. Chapter 16 is fuses. Chapter 17 is switches. So you go, say, to switches. And switches will tell you, don't forget the manufacturer. And frequency of maintenance. Go see chapter 10. And oh, by the way, here's what you're supposed to do for visual inspections. Here's what you do for cleaning. Here's what you do for lubrication. So for lubrication, apply a thin coating of conductant lubricant to exposed switch contacts. 1,000 volts or less, test type is 2. That's an offline standard test. Greater than 1,000 volts, not applicable. Apply conductive lubricant to pivot points as well as moving and sliding surfaces. 1,000 volts or less, not applicable. Greater than 1,000 volts, it's a standard offline test. That's a standard offline thing you do. Remember, offline is offline. Establish that electrically safe work condition, get in there and get it done. And then you have mechanical servicing. This is looking at all your hardware connections for torque, operating the switch on and off 5 times to work the lubrication between the contacts. And these are offline tests. All of these are offline. Let's take a look at the electrical tests you're going to do. Thermography, infrared thermography, online. You got to do that online. Don't do it with the doors closed. If you have a window, okay. But I've heard so many people doing thermography through closed doors without the windows. Ungood. Can't do that. Need to expose that stuff. Measure the contact resistance. Functional tests for switches with motor operators. Verify the control power. So it gives you all the list of items that you need to get done. And then chapter 10 tells you the frequency. And that's sort of, and then if chapter 8 tells you how to do the field testing, like torque and chapter 7 is your fundamental test. That's your torque and whatnot. Chapter 8 are your tests and your field tests and test methods. Okay, how you're going to be testing things and what the category types, your online standard, offline, etc., what those are, your test equipment, the fact that it has to be maintained and calibrated, all that jazz. Chapter 10 is your maintenance intervals. Chapter 7, that's where you're going to find your torque requirements and how to establish torque, how to check the torque. Chapter 7, there's a lot of different ways to do this stuff. Thermography, Chapter 7. So Chapter 6 is your system study. So that's sort of how it's laid out. And that's what's going on this week. Aren't you excited about it? 70B is going to be huge when it hits the street. You got to be thinking about maintenance. You got to think about how this plays into your life as an inspector, as an installer, as a facility owner, as a contracting firm, as an engineering firm, as a manufacturer. Thinking about maintenance with regard to 70E for safe work practices and installation requirements. They all work together to establish safe power distribution systems. I hope this session helped you a little bit understand that relationship, give you a little perspective, another perspective on 70B, and it's coming. And we are working on it this week. We're in the second draft meetings. You can always reach out to Sarah Caldwell at NFPA to listen in this week. So we're going to have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you want to listen into the activities going on with NFPA 70B and be a fly on the wall, be a guest, just send an email out to Sarah Caldwell. You can find her out on the NFPA website. I look forward to possibly seeing you there. I'll look for your name. Don't use the chat, please. Don't do it. Ungood. You don't want to be chatting it up. Just listen and learn. Watch the process. It's beautiful. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for spending an hour with me, maybe a few minutes more. Thanks for what you do for the electrical industry and for electrical safety. Get out there and get your IAEI membership. Now, hopefully I will see you at one of these future in-person meetings of the IAEI. Take care, stay safe, and please, God bless, and please, stay healthy. See you next week.